A movie I really enjoyed in the recent years is Free Guy. Now, Free Guy tells the story of Guy, who's essentially an NPC, a non-playable character in this hugely popular video game called Free City. Now, being an NPC, Guy isn't really that important. He's a side character. His programming causes him to follow a really strict routine. He doesn't really question anything that he's told, and he lives life on a constant loop, on repeat. However, because of this, he knows exactly what to expect every day. There isn't really any challenges, any obstacles he has to overcome, so he's relatively content. He's happy. Well, that is until he is not, because one day he wanted more, and to get more, to get closer to his goals, he actually had to start playing the game. He had to level up, he had to do the hard stuff, and that is how he started to see progress towards actually achieving his goals. Now, I tell you this story because I like to relate life to how video games are. There's a lot of similarities between the two, and that's really the whole niche of my channel, and I find that many people think they're the players in this video game when they're mostly actually exhibiting or following NPC-like behaviors. They don't really question everything, they do everything as they're told, and they don't try to do the hard stuff to actually level up in life. But if life was a video game, to actually move forward, to actually achieve your goals, you have to play the video game the way it was meant to be played. So the topic of today's video is going to be on why you aren't leveling up as fast as you want to in this game of life. And let's get into it. If I had to pick one resource that is the lifeblood of human development, it has to be knowledge. Knowledge is what allows us to make better decisions, which leads to better opportunities, and then leads us to actually progress in the game of life. Luckily for you, we live in the age of information, the digital era, the internet. I mean, the internet and its applications have made the acquisition of knowledge so accessible to everyone. I mean, it's literally just a swipe, a click, heck, even a voice command away. Shout out to you, Siri. So in theory, we should be able to learn and acquire any single skill that we need to actually accelerate our growth in the game of life. You know, our opportunities to make the best of our life has never been greater. Let me get that through to you. Now, the problem here is that despite all this access to information, the majority of people still feel stunted in their growth. They don't feel like they're actually making any progression in the game of life. Now, the game of life is a game of problem solving. There are endless questions and endless problems to be solved in this world. How do I get rich? How do I stay healthy? How do I have a happy relationship? How do I be more content? Etc, etc, etc. Depending on who you are as a person, you're going to have your own questions and hence your own solutions that you need to seek. Now, in science, there's a very specific way that problems are solved, and this is done through the scientific method. Now, there are many variations of the scientific method, but the general pillar, the general flow of them goes like this. You actually start off with an observation, the problem itself. You actually do the research, you learn to see how you can solve this problem. You come up with a hypothesis that if you actually try this solution, you're going to solve the problem, right? You test and you experiment, you analyze the results, and then you actually come up with a conclusion. What did you learn from it? And then you repeat the whole process over again, this time a lot more refined based off what you learned the last time around. And scientists do this over and over again in order to solve all the problems that they face. Well, very similar to life, people actually follow a similar flow when they're trying to solve all their daily problems. Now, the problem, however, is that most people skip a lot of these steps. Some people try to solve problems without actually taking the time to learn, to actually gather the information on how to solve the problem. Some people actually try to learn, but they just apply the information blindly without actually trying to analyze or take away any learnings for the next time around. Or some simply just learn, but never actually applying it, actually trying to test out and experiment whether it's effective in their lives or not. A lot of these behaviors are NPC-like we discussed in the start of this video. And this actually hinders your progress because you didn't really complete the whole loop or you skip certain steps, so you don't actually make any progress towards actually solving the problem you're trying to solve. So how do we actually escape this trap? How do we actually learn and take away information so that we can apply it to actually solve the daily problems in our life? Because that's what's going to help us progress in the game. And to actually answer this question, you have to understand the concept of passive versus active learning. The reason I say this is because human beings are extremely unique. The problems that I'm trying to solve is going to be vastly different than the problems that you're trying to solve. Sure, there's some similarities, but whatever I'm trying to solve, there's going to be certain things that's going to pertain only to me. So any of the advice, information that I give needs to be filtered. You cannot use it step by step because you yourself are your own person and you have your own things that you're trying to solve in your own specific special way. The problem that most people run into is that they're trying to solve problems by using passive learning, by learning things blindly, by applying everything without testing things out, without actually taking the time to understand and learn and challenge themselves to what they need to actually do to solve their own problems. And this is where I want to help you make a difference in terms of how you actually acquire and use information. And before we continue, if you enjoy the content up to this point, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below, as well as hit that bell notification. I am a huge fan of video games and I'm trying to tie together self-development and video games, so if you're into the two, make sure you go ahead and come along for this ride. Now I'm going to share 3 things that I personally did that helped me make that switch from being a more passive learner to an active learner. Now my personal way of acquiring information is through YouTube. I love YouTube. I think there's so much great information there, but it can be applied to anything. Books, lectures, podcasts, it works, okay? And hopefully some of this information can help you actually be a more active learner to solve the problems that you need and to actually retain and use the information that you're getting to actually better your own lives. Number 1, write down keywords and sentences that stand out to you. Now, a huge problem that I actually ran into is that I was listening to a lot of YouTube videos on a daily basis. I would queue up like 5 to 10 videos where I would learn and listen and try to acquire all the knowledge there. But the problem is that the next day comes along and I would forget everything that I learned the previous day. I would do this again and again and again, and it would feel like I'm actually acquiring a lot of knowledge when in fact I didn't really retain any of it. And that is why it is so important to actually write down little things that you've gained from everything that you're learning. Now, the whole concept and whole idea here is that you want to actually learn with intention. And the only way you're able to retain anything is that you're going to have to seek a certain answer when you're watching something. And when you actually find that something that excites you, when you get that aha moment, you're like, oh, that's really cool. I think that can actually help me solve the problem. Write it down. It doesn't mean how silly it is. Now, you can write it down, you can type in your phone. I have a little journal, like a mini journal on my phone that I just type out things that stand out to me when I'm listening to stuff. And that's how I come up with all these little things that I'm able to teach, able to apply to all the problems I'm trying to solve. And the point here is that you want to actively listen, actively learn, instead of passively just absorbing information without actually retaining anything. Our brains, our memory cannot really keep a lot of facts, memorize a lot of things all at once. There's a lot of things happening in life. So unless you write it down somewhere, that information is going to be lost in the void. It's not going to be useful anymore. And if you keep on doing this, it's going to feel like you're learning, it's going to feel like you're acquiring information when in fact you're not really gaining anything towards bettering your life. So the first thing, make sure you write down keywords and key things that stand out to you when you're trying to acquire knowledge through internet, books, whatever it is. Number 2, analyze the information and how it applies to your own lifestyle. I want to start off with this. The majority of people are lazy. I'm lazy, okay? Actually gaining information can seem like it's very hard work, but you can actually also learn in a very lazy fashion. What do I mean by this? Now, most people like to be told what they want to hear. They want to be told the solutions. They want a step-by-step progress. They don't want to do their own thinking because it's difficult when you have to critically think to solve your own problems. So what people do is that they will seek information online, and someone would say, okay, if you do 1 to 5, these 5 things, you're going to be very financially rich. If you do these 5 things, you're going to be really healthy. The problem, however, is those 5 things might have worked for the person that was teaching you, but for you, the circumstances might be different. Those 5 things might not really apply all to you. Sure, 1 or 2 things might work, but not all 5. So to actually find the other 3 things, you have to do your own research. So really what I found to be most effective is you want to acquire information from various sources, right? A few different sources, and collectively filter out the information that's going to be most useful to you. So maybe this guy says that, all right, you do these 3 things, it's really cool. You would take 1 thing here. This guy says he has 5 things. You maybe take 2 things from him, and you come up with your own plan. You need to think what makes sense to you, what works for you, what doesn't work work for you, and don't simply follow information blindly. Remember, you don't want to be an NPC, right? NPC, non-playable characters in video games, follow everything blindly, just accept things for what they are. They just listen without really thinking for themselves. But you as the player, you as the gamer, need to make your own decisions to figure out what is it are you going to take away to apply to solve your own problems. And that is number 2. Make sure you analyze the information and how it applies to your own daily lives. Number 3, actually apply the information. Don't just consume. Now, I also fell into this trap where I would listen to a lot of videos, but I wouldn't really take any action of them, because this is actually the trap where you feel productive by actually listening to a lot of smart people say a lot of smart things. So you feel like you're smarter, you feel like you're getting information, but if you don't take the steps to actually bettering your lives, not only aren't you making progress, but you're not actually discovering what the next step is. Because part of the game of life is that you need to try out different ways, try out different methods, and at some point you're going to fail, right? And people are afraid of failure, which is why I think a lot of people get stuck in simply the learning stage instead of the application stage. But only through failure can you see what the next step is, because once you fail, you can see like, oh, all this work, but then this thing is what caused me to fail. So the next time that you seek information, you'll be a little more specific in what you're going to seek to solve that problem. And really, this is how you start to see progress in the game of life. It is way better for you to read one book, watch one video, and actually apply the knowledge before learning again, instead of just reading 5 to 10 books and not doing anything with that knowledge. At the end of the day, it is what you do, the actions that you take, that helps you make progress, because despite as much information that you have up here, it doesn't matter if you do not actually manifest it by doing the things that you're learning about. So to start closing out this video, I want you to understand that we are all players in this game of life. That means we all have the ability and the skills to get richer, stronger, happier, more content, but it starts by you understanding how to play the game. You don't want to be an NPC in the game, right? So you have to do the hard things, you have to challenge yourself, you have to know how to use the information that you gain in order to better your lives. So to recap those 3 things that we learned on how to be more of an active learner. Number 1, you want to make sure you write down keywords or sentences that stick out to you. Number 2, make sure you analyze the information and how it fits into your lifestyle. And 3, actually apply the knowledge and not just consume. We only have so much time, attention in a day, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing those resources to actually better our lives. If you're utilizing all your resources inefficiently, then of course you're going to level up a lot slower and not see any progress in the game of life. I mean, you can start it right now. The information that you've gained, try to apply some of it. You know, I gave you 3 things, maybe take 1, 2 away. Maybe the 3rd thing didn't make sense to you. Maybe all 3 didn't make sense to you, but you can take a little bit and actually seek more information online. Whatever it is, this is your game to play. I just want you to live life to its full potential for you to actually achieve all the goals that you want to achieve there. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoy this kind of content, go ahead and check out this video over here or here. Well, it's a really good one, and I hope to see you again very soon. Take care. Peace.